it, you can say existence is like the sea, right? That can operate as waves or drops. The interesting thing about the wave, the sea drop analogy is that imagine the whole sea is in every drop.
Mm.
And I mean literally, the whole sea is in every drop. In other words, it is like how it has been said that if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book, right?
Yeah.
If you want to hide something from man,
Yeah.
right, don't tell him about the inside.
Hidden inside.
It is inside.
Yes.
The man seeking God outside
Yeah.
because the world that he say God create is apparently a world outside. So you see the God had to be outside just further back or further down. Right? But there's really no out there's really no outside. One of the reasons why they encourage you to function with a self-image is because self-knowledge involves becoming internally aware. Once you go within, you realize that all you were seeking in the world, and this is why you never find it in the world, and deposit it in the hereafter. Everything you need is within you. But the way academic information and education and even religion to a considerable degree, it focuses the mind purely on external things, physical things,
Yeah.
outside, and the outside is infinite.
Right.
So you're telling yourself, hey, I could spend the rest of my life trying to explore this outside. When the truth is, the outside is an illusion. In a very real sense, the outside is an illusion. I'm not saying there's nothing extraneous to you or that you're the only being that exists, right? But your perception of outside is an illusion because what you're seeing is not outside of you. It is in your awareness. It's a feature of your awareness. Sitting outside of you. Because when we talk about it because you're aware of it. So how external is it? One of the reasons why they do not promote self-knowledge, which is an extension of not not teaching you how to think. They teach you how to memorize and regurgitate. Right? They don't teach you how to think. Because learning to think would involve becoming internally aware. In other words, checking, not only recognizing that the same way there's the outside is the inside, and the inside preceded the outside. And the you that you don't know is the you that is on the inside. But the culture tries to imprison you with the so-called external, what you see, sensual experience, sensual perception. But anytime you close your eyes, you become internally aware. Anytime you close your eyes, right? The fact that there's an inner comes to your awareness, or you are able to acknowledge that there's an inner. But nobody wants to explore the inner, and because you have no information about the inner, you think there's nothing in the inner, or the inner doesn't really exist, except as some sort of fantastic emptiness. Everything you're seeking, just change the direction. Right now you're looking so, right? And when be careful. Right now your attention is focused this way. If you turn your back, the whole thing changes. In other words, it is always behind you, no matter how much you fucking turn. The depth on the inside, or your interior, is always behind you. So it is not the opposite of this, in that sense, where you could turn around and you could see it. And any movement you make, it's behind you. It's behind what you're paying attention to, which is normally through the eyes. So I started coming to the
So, so how can one explore the inner? Can if somebody was to ask you, how do you explore the inner or your inner world, or how do you go on that search, that inward journey? If someone you were to ask you that question, what would you tell them?
you need to become more aware of your psychological activity, your thoughts and emotions, right? Which you don't see, but you see the effects of, right? But you don't see. you need to become more familiar with yourself.
Understood.
You've tied up yourself too much with your body. Alright?
Mm.
So you don't realize that there's more to you than your body. For example, when you're sleeping, where's your body? Somebody who's awake will tell you you're lying down on the bed. No, that has its practical merit or practical truth, right? But observe when you're sleeping, you can't find the room you're lying down in. You will never find the room you're lying down in because it's a different level of awareness. A different level of awareness is literally a different dimension. So things you could find in one dimension you cannot find in the other. The same way when you're sleeping, you can't find your room. When you're in your room, you can't find what you were perceiving while you were asleep. It's two different levels of awareness. So awareness comes like a dimension of our being, a dimension that is multidimensional. And nobody pays attention to awareness at all. Without awareness, the world that you're seeing, you're living in doesn't exist. All this is the information or the self-knowledge that is lacking in terms of academia or religion. Of all the religions, the one that comes closest to the truth is Buddhism. Why? Because Buddhism tries to understand the tool you're using to know things. In other words, the understanding of the mind. You use thinking to know things. And there's so many things you can know that, in a sense, you could say you could spend your whole life thinking. But what do you know about thinking? You know nothing about thinking. And that is the key because thinking is something you are doing and you're ignorant of the nature of this thing that you're doing, and it is so indispensable to your survival. This neglect of it is something inherited from the environment because it is never emphasized. Just like how they don't teach you about thinking, they teach you what to think.
Right.
And they never teach you how to think. It opens the door or allows you the opportunity to really know what's going on with life. And you see, thinking creates meaning, right? And after you label and identify something, you give it a particular meaning, and the thing becomes invisible. For example, the only look at classic example of the power of thinking. No one is a stranger. Stranger is the word we use, right? In regular dialogue and that kind of thing. Right? But nobody's a stranger because the person you're calling a stranger is just somebody. What you're confessing by calling the person a stranger is that you have no information about them. Maybe the first time you've seen them. Right? See that person 2, 3, or 4 times and dialogue with them. Next time you see them, they're no longer a stranger. The, per, the person hasn't changed. The information has changed your perception of the person you're calling a stranger. And you can even go deeper because what you are calling a stranger is you can call a stranger a picture in your visual awareness. Right? Just a picture you associate with human existence. Right? But after you acquire information, the information is bonded or integrated to the picture. So every time you see the picture, the information is activated. And anytime you think about the information, the visual image of the picture comes to your awareness. Because you have created a unity between them in your awareness or in your consciousness. So anytime you see one, the other is invoked.
That's the power of the mind, you're saying.
Yeah.
Power of thinking or the power of...
Power of thinking. Mind. Mind is nothing but memory.
Right. Nothing without memory.
Without memory, there's no
Yeah.
mind. There's knowledge.
Right.
There's knowledge that is independent of memory.
Right.
Right? But without memory, there's no mind. Because most times when we use the word mind, we're talking about the ability to think.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Thinking is connected to language.
Mm-hmm.
You use language to think. But the language you're using to think has nothing to do with the things you're thinking about, you know.
Mm.
Somebody's perception of you is independent of you, you know.
Right.
While their awareness and relation to you could become imprisoned by the perception of you or the information they have of you. We live with ourselves like with a stranger.
We don't know about ourselves.
Yeah. And I can't, I won't say we are comfortable with the ignorance, right? Because the ignorance is the source of all our discomfort, right? But we take it for granted because we realize everybody is going on with everybody. Is the norm then, right? But it is an abnormality. You see, this nonverbal awareness that we know as children, that they call the kingdom of heaven, we were not supposed to outgrow it. We were supposed to develop mind and language and complement it. To complement it. But what we have done is we have developed one side at the expense of that. We sacrifice that to develop the ability to think. And when we succeed in developing the ability to think, we realize something is missing. And that's what is missing. That self awareness we knew as a child. That's what the kingdom of heaven and being born again actually means. This is why I was telling you this now.